Folks, are you passionate about democracy and concerned about the rise of authoritarianism? I'm Joanne, Kevin's wife, and I've seen him give everything to this work. That's why Coffee with Democrats matters, lifting up stories, building connections, and keeping democracy strong. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for 30 minutes of conversation with elected officials, candidates, and Democratic influencers, only on Coffee with Democrats. So join me in welcoming the Executive Director and host of Coffee with Democrats, my husband, Kevin Dawson.
Good evening and welcome to Coffee with Democrats. Let me get this situated a little bit better. There we go. I've got a good friend with me today, Cody Stull. He works for Oklahoma Oklahoma City School District, and he's running for Oklahoma State Senate District 24.
That's right.
So good evening and welcome to Coffee with Democrats. It's great to finally meet you face to face.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. This is a great opportunity just to discuss the campaign and visit with you about what's important to me and my family and Oklahomans moving forward. So thank you very much for the invite.
So some of you may not know this, but Cody still hasn't done his launch party yet. That's coming up a week from today. So we're actually getting a preview of his launch and get to know Cody. We'll be able to hear a little bit about his speech, his candidate speech. So just a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we don't want anybody to miss out on next Tuesday. We're going to give a little bit of a preview, but not the whole thing. So
absolutely.
It's great to talk to you. And we're almost neighbors. I just live down the road, just a little bit off Telephone Road. You just live up north there in Moore. So it's close to, it's easy for both of us to get here to the Cleveland County Democrats, to their multimedia studio and be able to meet face to face.
Yeah. No, this is a great opportunity to be down in Norman at the headquarters. Yes, I'm smack dab in the middle of Moore. We live in the South Moore area. I have been in Moore my whole life. Outside of the 3 years I went to Chickasha for undergrad, Moore is the only place I call home. And so excited to be running for Senate District 24, to be a chance to represent my community that is my home, that is my family, is my friends.
Right.
This is personal. It's a big deal.
Well, and should be, because it is an important role. It's a very important role. Not saying that all of the accomplishment, the things that you do now, working as a superintendent and principal at a school.
Principal, not superintendent. I'm not in that life.
Well, you took certification for it anyway. But
yeah.
Anyway, you are working as a principal, and it's such an important job to be a principal and being responsible for all the students and accountable to all the parents and impacting the community that's around the school district. But now at the Senate level, it's just a little bit different level of responsibility. And it's going to be fun to see how this transpires and works out for you. Right now, you don't have a primary opponent. You're basically it, aren't you?
Yeah, I want to touch on what you said, though, because one thing that's come out of conversations at doorsteps and phone calls and things like that, I had a wonderful conversation before we decided to run with Representative Ronnie Johns out of Ada.
Uh-huh.
He's a family friend, and talked to him about what does this look like, feel like, sound like, that kind of situation. Because I had to be better informed about what does this do career wise, what does this do for my family, things like that. And so Ronnie and I talked, and Ronnie was a former baseball coach, former school principal down in the Bing area. Ronnie gave a lot of wisdom, and one of the things that he told me was that he didn't feel like there was a career path that could have prepared him better for this role as a representative. And so me as a senator, one of the conversations that comes up a lot is that for the past 11 years, I've spent my career focused on kids and families of a campus or of a community, taking this to the next level and saying, now let's focus on the kids and families of our state and of Senate District 24. Just kind of feels like a natural progression as far as what I've been led to do and what I've been grown and things like that. It just really stays with the heart of my career choice and having kids and families first and front.
Well, it's great. It's a great story. And folks, you're going to see us kind of looking around here. This production is all done by myself in the studio here. So I sometimes have to look away from the camera and look down here at the computer. But bear with us as we move through this. us a little bit about, you just talked about that initial conversation that you had. There's three basic conversations that I have with every person that comes in here.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, tell us why you're running, and tell us why people should vote for you. It's simple, pretty simple,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of long answers that go to all three of those.
Yeah. Pretty simple who I am. I'm Cody Stull. Like I said, born and bred in Moore. My parents, Danny Terry, they're Moore graduates of 78. This is the community that I've always been a part of. It's the community I belong to. I was a Moore High graduate in 05. You know, I grew up at Buck Thomas Park off of 12th Street, all the things. And so that's where I come from. First and foremost, I am a husband. My wife, Nicole, she is a big reason why I'm sitting in this chair today. She's been a big push. She's been a big lever for me to say, yeah, we can do this and we can take this chance. And then outside of being a husband, I'm a dad. I got two girls. One of them is very nicely sitting next to us over here, taking photos and being awesome at media tonight. My oldest is at practice. And so by, just being a husband, being a father, taking care of business at home. And then beyond that, I'm a school guy.
Right.
I have a lot of people ask me, are you an education supporter? And sometimes I'll kind of jokingly tell them, no, I'm not. I'm an educator.
Right.
That's where I've been for the past 18 years. I graduated from USAO in 2008, and in the spring of 2008, I was already standing on a baseball field at Moore High School. And so taught and coached at Moore, and then went to Oklahoma City Public Schools and started my administrative career, and been with Oklahoma City for going on 11 years in different roles and different responsibilities. And that's just kind of how we've gotten to this point.
Well, it's a great story. And, I'm glad you mentioned about the family, because family should always come first. And the fact that we were able to bring your daughter, which we won't mention her name, but we did bring her here, and it's great that family's always welcome, and family always comes first, and family should always come first, and that's a very important message. The next question that we're going to talk a little bit about. Well, first of all, let's go back. So USAO is not your final education path. You had other education too. So talk to us about, you had to go get a master's degree somewhere.
Yeah.
You had to get administrative certification somewhere. So talk to us about some of that stuff.
Yeah. So I left USAO, like I said, I graduated in 2008. Loved it down in Chickasha. It was a fantastic experience. I got a dear friend whose daughter just signed there to play softball. I gave her a call a couple of weeks back, and I said, you're going to love it. It's going to work out. Typical parent was kind of worried about cutting ties, and all that stuff. And I said, no, it's a great place to be. It's close enough to home that you can come home on a Monday night, get some laundry done, and then go back and do your thing. But after USAO, I went in the classroom. I taught junior high math at Moore Central. From there, we did a master's program through UCO, got my master's, and went into admin. And so admin certification came along the way, through that process, and doing the Oklahoma State Department testing and things like that. And superintendent licensure came along the way and stuff, and had to pick up a class at SWASU one time to help with that. And then currently, I'm a dad. I am a school administrator. I am a candidate for SD24. I'm also in the final year and a half of doctorate program.
Oh, really? Where's that?
Yeah, Arkansas State University. And so
in Little Rock.
Yeah, things are busy.
Yeah.
Jonesboro.
Okay.
Things are busy, and we're doing all the scheduling, all the calendaring, everything. The school life right now, as far as doctorate, opened up really well to this new adventure that we're in as far as the campaign trail. But I mean, I guess one thing I would say about the educational opportunities I've had, each and every time they have expanded me. They've expanded my understanding of community. They've expanded not just my understanding of K-12 education, but my understanding of just the role we play in building communities and strengthening communities, and how we create sustainability and things like that. And so I'm kind of a school nerd. I will admit it. But the learning part, it has never gone to the side. It's always been useful. It's always been something I could put into practice. And so I do appreciate my journey. It's been busy, but it's been worth it.
And I am a true believer in lifelong learning. That's kind of, it doesn't mirror my pathway at all. I mean, it was completely different, but through going back and getting my bachelor's and master's, I've learned to love learning. So learn to love learning.
Yeah. I became an adult reader.
Yes.
My mother, who retired as a school media specialist, she will tell you that we had plenty of arguments and conversations because when I was school age, I didn't enjoy reading. It just wasn't, I didn't want to sit still.
Right.
I didn't want to participate in that. It was one of those things. As an adult, I'm an adult reader. You know, if I'm on vacation, I'm going to have 2 books with me and just, you know, something to carry on the time and things like that. But definitely have grown more aware and more appreciative of seeing those extra perspectives, seeing extra information, and being able to just be, for lack of a better term, an informed critical thinker.
There you go. There you go. That's very good. So talk to us a little bit more in depth about why you're running.
Yeah. I think right off the gate, when it came to me being approached as a candidate, as someone, would I be interested in this and what that looked like? I really had to come to terms with what could I bring to the table? What is different? How is it useful? I'm not going to stick myself in a situation that is a waste of time for me and my family or my community. Like I value who I represent if elected. And so I didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm not qualified to do that. And so when we looked at running, one of the big things that keeps coming up, a conversation that we keep having, is that as an administrator, as a teacher, I have served in Moore. I've served in Northwest Oklahoma City. I've served up by Nichols Hills.
Mm-hmm.
I was a principal in Spencer for a hot minute. I've been on the South Side. I put a lot of pride in the fact that I have been exposed to and I've been a part of just about every community our state has to offer. And so when it comes to having a mind and a thought process to represent people of SD24, and the people of Oklahoma, I take with a lot of pride that I feel like I have spoken to just about every person that represents the full scope of Oklahoma.
Right.
And so when I looked at candidacy, one of the things I thought that I could very much bring to the table is the idea of balance. Right now in our government, it is extremely one-sided. And when you are one-sided, that means a lot of people aren't being represented in the conversation. When there's not a lot of balance and there's not a need for conversation, that means we're not having collaboration. That means we're not having compromise in those things. And so I want to bring a new voice to the table that says, hey, have we thought about this group? Mm-hmm. Have we thought about how that affects these people in this community or these people of this situation and things and backgrounds and all that stuff? And so I really want to bring that extra voice to the table. And when we get to the table, golly, off the gate, I'm an educator. And I'm going to talk about protecting public K-12 education and not continuing to just take slashes at funding and take slashes at the commitment to teachers and the commitment to real recruiting programs and things like that.
Right.
Coming off of Ryan Walters, we've got some wounds.
Yeah.
We've got some battle scars, and you know, we've had to regain the trust of some because of the messaging that was put out there and things like that. We've had to reinvent some of our programming to fit within new funding guidelines and boundaries. And school districts, I don't know if you will find a group of people that are more innovative in finding a way to get things done and take care of kids. And I'm not going to say that we're perfect. We got kids that are struggling. We got kids that need support. But there's not an educator that's walking into the building every day, not fighting their tail off for their kids and their families and their community. And that's something where we have to get the public and government leaders to recognize and celebrate again. And we got to come off of that back end where, I'll be honest, it kind of felt like you're being hunted for a little bit. And so talking about education, and then, you know, we always want to talk about this new issue with affordability. And
right.
I'm worried about the grocery bill versus my insurance versus my health care versus my parents or my aging grandparents, what is their situation? Do they have enough income to support themselves and this and that? The affordability for true Oklahomans, it is an issue. It's a concern. It's on the front door every day where you're having to make tough decisions about what am I going to do to make sure my kids and my family and my spouse and my parents and my loved ones, to make sure that we're all taken care of and getting what we need. When you look at affordability, a big one for me and especially for my wife, it's early childhood. It is early childcare options and affordability for parents. Working in an elementary school, the sad reality is that sometimes you have 5 and 6 year olds that are already 3 years behind their peers.
Right.
Did they have the opportunity to be exposed to peer play at a young age? Did they get exposed to just learning colors and numbers and shapes and things like that? Are their parents able to put them in a daycare situation or a child care provider that provides that early play? And like I say, peer to peer is so huge, to get exposed to other children and learn from each other and language and everything else. And so, when we talk about affordability, it also goes into that child care piece. Do I have a parent that can afford to go to work and take care of their child and be at home at night?
Yeah.
Be at home at night around a kitchen table. Be at home at night supporting them in their learning. Be at home at night to be a positive role model and the stability and things like that. And so affordability goes across so many dynamics. It's not just about paying the bills. It's about the decisions and about the 2 jobs and the requirements and being able to really provide our kids and our families a full, stable situation to where they can thrive and they can look forward to opportunities instead of worrying about all the necessities. It's hard to look at opportunities when my necessities are not being met. And so making sure that we have a chance to look forward is huge.
Well, one of the things you brought up was, we were under attack for so long by Ryan Walters. But in the State of the State address we just heard the other day, and we're under attack now by our governor again. And for somebody like yourself, you spent an enormous amount of time in athletics. And now all of a sudden our athletics association, which we thought was going in a good way, was managing themselves fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden they're under attack. They want to have a mirrored organization that now is accountable to the bureaucracy of the government. What's your thoughts on that?
I find it interesting that for a state that is 50th in education,
right,
for a state that has been struggling for funding and consistency across the board, every year that education funding comes up, you will see superintendents start to grab their chairs to wait on the message.
Right.
With all those situations in our state, how ironic is it that we're going to focus on the OSSA? Yeah. A problem that isn't being talked about. I know that he used the example of some of the young men that weren't able to play out the gate after a transfer and a move situation. I don't know all their details. I'm not even going to try to be an expert on their situation. The OSSA has an ability to look at those situations and to make very justified and common sense rulings based on the rules they have.
Right.
I think we also got to acknowledge that for OSSAA, the rules that were put in place by the legislature for transfers and moves and things like that, that's affected them being able to keep up. It's very similar to NCAA.
Yeah.
NCAA gets rulings from the courts that NIL is okay, but they didn't have rules and structures in place to navigate those waters. It was just, here you go, it's allowed. And I think the OSSAA got put in a tough spot with some of those transfer rules and free choice of where you want to be and things like that. They might have a great fundamental place in our system, but you have to allow other people the time to figure out how to fit this new square peg in the circle hole.
Yeah.
But to go after OSSA and then to see all the athletic directors around the state say they support us, don't have a problem. To see the officials come out and say, we don't have any problems with OSSA.
Right.
One person is saying OSSA is a problem. There's a lot of other problems that we can all agree on. There's a lot of other problems that we can get behind him and the legislature and say, yes, you have our support. Let's fix this. it feels like a very, look what my hand's doing over here. You don't see what's happening over here. The shifty game with the ball and the cups on the side of the street. It's some of the same tactics we have seen from President Trump. You have a headline here, so I'm going to give you a headline over here and distract you.
Right.
I find it very ironic that we're going to bring up OSSA in the midst of anything else that we would have been committed to, not just as educators, not just as athletic lovers, as the state of Oklahoma will get behind you on so many things. And OSSA is not on the radar.
Yeah.
That is, for all the tactics of using buzzwords to get people upset, I did not think OSSA would be on the bingo card.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of other issues that came out of that state of the state, but we could spend many hours talking about that state of the state, but we need to focus on you for right now. And we need to focus on why people should vote for you, besides what they've already heard, which I think is outstanding. I mean, the overall, book of talent that you're bringing to this, you've got a great resume.
I appreciate it.
But talk to us about, your stump speech and why you talk to people and how you explain to them that their vote matters, that everybody should vote, and please vote for Cody Stull.
I'm going to save as much as I can for next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And shameless plug, next Tuesday, the campaign kickoff event, it is at Water's Edge Winery off of South Broadway. More will be there Tuesday on February the 17th from 5:37. Would love to see you there. We've got plenty of room. So by all means, we invite everyone to come join us and hear the broader message. But as far as voting for me, I'm really going to stand on the fact that, one, I'm not a politician.
Right.
I am running for office, and eventually that may be a title that is next to my name. This opportunity, this call, this decision was not on my radar. This was an opportunity that presented itself. A lot of thought, a lot of conversation between my wife and I, a lot of prayer, a lot of conversation with the kids, with the grandparents, our whole support system on trying to figure out if this was a good idea for us and if I was a good enough representation of the community. And at the end of the day, we come to terms with the fact that, there's a lot that I feel like I can bring to the table. And I've said already, my experience with children and families across the OKC Metro and across more, having that experience, having an ability to actually call upon those conversations, call upon those memories and those situations, and take that voice to the Capitol. Have that voice, have that child's face, have that parent's face in my mind when I have to consider a tough decision. That's a big part of it. I think for me, being a school principal, I am built on collaboration, and I am built on the fact that I cannot be an expert at everything, but I need to have an ability and a wherewithal to find those people that are experts and have those conversations. And so when it comes to really tough decisions, finding the experts to get their opinion, going back to the community and having conversations, actually asking people, what is your opinion, and listening to the answers instead of assuming them. I want to represent more. It gets kind of tough when people say, what are the pillars of your campaign? What do you want to do? What do you want to get done? Because I think it's a really fine line, because I want to represent my community. And so when I go door to door, I say, what do you need? What are you concerned about? Because I want to carry your message. I don't want to carry just Cody Stull's message. I have my thoughts and my opinions and my feelings, but if I'm elected to represent SD24. And that's the goal. And so being out in the community and having those conversations, I want people to know genuinely when we talk back and forth that I'm here to hear your voice and to carry your voice. That's the role.
Yeah.
And so not being someone that aspired to be a politician, I aspired to be a servant to my community. And I've done that through schools for 17, 18 years. Now I'd like to do it on more of a larger scale with the community and the state, and it just fits. But a vote for Cody Stull is a vote for one of Moore's own. It's a vote for a guy that has always been faithful to the community and faithful to students and families. And my family is still there. I'm still there. The in-laws are there. The decisions that I am a part of for SD24, They affect me. They affect my kids. They affect the grandparents. It is full scale. I am more through and through, and I want to be able to take that commitment to office.
And it's your campaign is what I'm describing as a people-centric campaign. It's focusing on the people.
If I could, I'm always gonna try to get the people part. I think the other part though is that I want to also make sure that it comes across that running as a Democrat is by all means what applies most to my stances. But I am an independent thinker, and I want to make sure that I use the skills that I built through school crisis and things like that. Those are the skills that I take to the house to say, hey, okay, here's our problem. Let's assess it. Let's find our multiple paths to solution. Let's find a solution that works best for the most and things like that. I very much, that conversation I talked about with Representative Johns, that was a huge part when we talked about the ins and outs of being a principal and the amount of communication, the amount of collaboration, the amount of compromise, conversation, and all those skills. If you've been in a school building, you know what I'm talking about. But taking those to the state level, I feel like would be extremely, extremely impactful.
So I'm going to pull up onto the page right now. I'm going to show there is your website. It's Cody Stull 4 SD24, and you spelled out 4. So it's on the screen. And give me just a couple of minutes, and we'll pull up the actual website for people to be able to view that. But it's always an exciting time when you go down to the election office and you put your name on the piece of paper and say, I'm running for office. And it's also a very nerve-wracking time as well. It can cause a lot of anxiety, but I'm going to pull up here.
We had a conversation last night, me and a couple people, about the campaign and about how right now it's very abstract.
Yeah.
I've got my door knockers and I'm going door to door and I'm having conversations with people. But the movement of it and are we reaching, enough people and things like that, it's really abstract. You just kind of can't see it.
Right.
I had a lady the other day, one of our neighboring community members, she answered the door and she said, yeah, I saw your post. I saw that you were going to be in our neighborhood today. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
Yes.
That it's people are seeing and the communication is happening and the word is spreading, things like that. And I called someone last night and said, hey, I want you to be at the campaign kickoff. And she said, don't worry, we already got our carpool ready.
Good.
Oh my gosh, and so going through it, you're starting to have more of those really concrete moments of things are happening. This is working. I look forward to April. I look forward to signing that line and put my name on it. For me, I don't know, maybe I'll be nervous that day. But for me, I really look forward to just putting that capstone on the effort that's been laid in January, February, and March, because things are already moving. And April to me is just kind of one of those steps, but the train is full speed.
There you go.
Full speed.
All right. We only got a couple minutes left, about a minute and a half. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. On the screen, folks, there is the Cody Stull, his website. It gives a brief overview on where you can contact him. There's a place here about meeting Cody, talks about his life history. And also there's place there for issues. He's got several issues to work on: lowering cost of living, improving education, people over politics, and government reform. All of those are very important attributes that we got to talk about. I'm going to pull up one more screen for us to look at as well. So let me remove that one, pull up a stop screen share. Let's pull up. We've got to talk about contributing. One thing that every single candidate that is here has to have is they have to have finances in order to be able to run for office. And if you're so inclined, we want you to be able to go to his website. Right on the very top, over on the right-hand side, it says donate, and it'll bring you to this page right here where you can donate. There's some set amounts that are in there, but folks, focus on that one that's not got anything filled out. I've went ahead and put in 26.26. It's $26 for 1926. Where the hell is
That's the new thing for the kids. They like to ask if you were born in the 1900s to make you feel real bad about yourself.
Well, I went back a century. $26 for 2026.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna end this today on a very positive note and laugh at ourselves for that. That was a lot of fun, and you're a great candidate. I appreciate you being able to come here and spend time with us.
Thanks for the invite.
And
thank you for the invite.
I hope that we're able to do this again soon. I like to do these about once a quarter when possible. So thank you so much for coming on to Coffee with Democrats. And folks, until next Tuesday at 7 p.m., please be safe.
Yeah. See y'all.
Coffee with Democrats is broadcast from the multimedia studio inside the Cleveland County Democrats office. With their gracious permission to use the space, our thanks to the Cleveland County Democrats Central Committee and Chair Jamie Shelton for accommodating our Tuesday night show.